So Bill O'Reilly is going to talk about drug laws, and he's going to make an unreal suggestion here at the end of the clip. But also pay attention in the middle here. His clip's about maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. At the early part, his argument is simply going to be made up. And I love how shameless he is and brazen he is when he makes something up, because it's Bill O'Reilly 101. Whatever you say, as long as you say it in a confident way, that's it. That's true enough. I just said it really confidently. So pay attention to that, and then your jaw will hit the ground when you hear what he says at the end.
Nearly half of the 100,000 drug offenders now serving time in federal penitentiaries, nearly half, are going to get their sentences cut. Nearly half. And I would submit to you that 75, 80% of them are violent people. They're violent people because it's a violent trade.
They are. And in fact, the Associated Press did some research on who he's commuting. One of these guys was busted with 10 pounds of cocaine. He's not a Choom Gang member at Columbia University who's smoking weed on his library break, okay? These are hardened criminals, and as you pointed out, and as Bratton pointed out, they plea bargain.
Yeah, they plea bargain down. There's no users. There are no users in federal penitentiaries.
And two, a lot of these prosecutors, they can't get them on the other stuff, so they nail them on the drug charges. No federal prosecutor is going to waste his time with someone with no criminal record and a non-violent crime. It's not going to happen. If you're in federal prison, these are hardened criminals, and the crime rate, unfortunately, will go up if they're released.
The argument is that it costs a lot of money to keep these people locked up, all right, and that some of their sentences are draconian, all right, and okay, that's debatable. You got to be reasonable about that. Some people probably are serving a little bit more time for selling crack than they should. However, the damage that they do to individuals is overlooked by President Obama. Yeah. This is outrageous to me. All right, this really separates me from Mr. Obama. Everybody knows the death, the enslavement, the degradation of people addicted to hard drugs. Everybody knows that. Yet, they're selling sympathy for the devil here, Jessica. And I'll remind you, in Singapore, they have no problem. Why? They hang them. Oh. They hang them.
Okay, but we're obviously not suggesting that as the answer.
I don't know. I mean, look, Singapore at one time had the most pernicious opium problem you could possibly have. It destroyed their entire society. So they said, you know what? We're not going to have this anymore. And that's what they did. Bingo, no drug problem.
Yeah, these guys aren't selling
dime bags. But in Australia, they had a gun problem. They took away all the guns. No problem. We're not doing that. I mean, we can't.
All right. Okay.
Jessica, they're gonna go out. They're gonna commit more crimes, and that's
I don't know about that.
We don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know that. We know that certain things will look at the chances.
This is what I know, and I gotta go. The damage these people have done to fellow human beings does not put them in a category to get leniency, in my opinion.
That is amazing. She even asked for clarification. Wait. You're not suggesting we kill drug criminals, right? You're not suggesting that, are you? Softball. Softball. Slowly going right down the center of the place. He's like, he fucking drops the bat. You want to go right by him. Well, in Singapore, they kill people for doing any drugs. And they don't have a drug problem. You know what problem they do have? A state-sanctioned murder problem for people exercising their own liberty and freedom. That's the problem. And then at the end, he's like, you know, they're violent people. I mean, what are you going to do here? I have no sympathy for people ruining lives like this. What about you? You're advocating for something that would ruin people's lives. What percentage of people in America have tried marijuana? Isn't it something crazy, like over 50%? In Bill O'Reilly's world, what do you want to do, tough guy? You want to kill every single person who ever smoked marijuana? You want me to get the list of all the people who've done all different drugs, whether it's marijuana, cocaine, LSD, heroin? There are people who, there was an article we covered a little while ago, the top 10 or top 20 geniuses and their drugs of choice. For fuck's sake, the person who figured out what was going on with genes, you know, that amazing scientific breakthrough, high all day long. Sigmund Freud, the old joke goes, he did enough cocaine to kill a small horse. Immeasurable, you know, contribution to the field of psychology. The list goes on and on. How many people have attributed LSD and taking LSD and what they experienced on it to a breakthrough in the way they think? Wasn't it, you know, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and all these guys? Didn't Carl Sagan smoke weed all the time? I mean, are you fucking serious? And then this is the same guy who will come out at another time and go, we had to do all these wars in the Middle East and whatnot because we need to bring democracy and freedom to these places. Democracy and freedom? Bitch, you don't believe in democracy and freedom. You just said maybe we should kill people for doing drugs. Singapore did it. They don't have a drug problem. They have a fucking murder problem because they murder people when they do substances. And take his line of thinking to its logical conclusion. Take it there. Alcohol. You think Bill O'Reilly hasn't had alcohol, doesn't drink alcohol? Sometimes. I mean, by his own logic, why, hey, tough guy. Should you be killed? They execute drug users. And then everything, I mean, he makes so many things up. 75% to 80% of non-violent offenders, because that's what the conversation is about, are violent. You see, he makes a face before he even says the numbers where he's fishing for it and making it up. He's like, 75% to 80% of non-violent offenders are violent. Really? Where are your facts? Where's your data to back that up? No, you don't have it. You just made it up. And then they go on to pontificate, continuing to make shit up. And Andrea Tantaros, to back up the case that nonviolent offenders are indeed violent, she goes, one guy smuggled in a lot of cocaine. And that would still be non-violent. Did he smuggle in cocaine and stab somebody in the eye with an ice pick? That would be violent. He didn't do that latter part. He just smuggled in the cocaine. Whether or not you like it, that's non-violent. If somebody brings in 18 cases of Jack Daniels, does that violent criminal? No, of course not. But see, you're sloppy thinkers. How many times have we been over this? Where, well, if it's the substances that I'm used to, because in my culture we grew up with them, rock on. So when, a pharmaceutical company pumps out Xanax all day long, is that a violent crime? Of course not. If somebody brings in a whole bunch of tequila, is that a crime? Of course not. If somebody brings in Monster Energy or Red Bull, is that a crime? Of course not. But oh my God, cocaine, weed, heroin, oh! Black people do some of these drugs. Violent crime. Lock them up, throw away the key. And then he says, there are no users. O'Reilly says there are no users in federal penitentiaries. Totally made up. See, what he's trying to do is he's trying to paint this picture that non-violent criminals are indeed violent, therefore they should be in jail, and Obama's wrong for reducing sentences of up to 50% of them. That's not true, by the way. It's less than that. But Obama's wrong for that because the non-violent people are really violent. Except they're not. You made that up. They're non-violent. That's why they're in jail. It's non-violence. And he says, everybody knows the death and enslavement of people addicted to hard drugs. And this will be the point I'll end on here. Guys, when O'Reilly demagogues on an issue like this, do you understand how damaging this is? Because he's wholly dismissing 80 to 90% of drug users, period, that are recreational moderate users who don't ruin their lives, don't go crazy, aren't addicted, have no problems associated with it whatsoever, but every once in a while they smoke weed. Every once in a while they do cocaine. Every once in a while, yes, they'll do some form of an opiate, whether it's pills or heroin or what have you. And then they go to work and they come home and they bone their wife, tuck the kids in, and they go to sleep. 80 to 90%. That's not me speaking. That's Dr. Carl Hart, who's an expert on this, who's done the research on this, who's been to countries where the treatment for heroin addiction is clinical heroin, where they come in 2 times a day, every day, 7 days a week, obviously, every day, and they give them their dose, and they go about and wear their suit and tie, and they go to work and everything. This caricature he has in his mind of, like, the junkie on the street where ruin their life from doing drugs. That's a tiny, tiny percentage of the people who do drugs, and typically there's underlying issues there, whether it's in that specific individual, there's paranoid schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or other psychological problems, or, there's it coming from a life that had no privilege whatsoever, was in poverty from the beginning, family was in a similar situation. It's always much more complex than Bill O'Reilly's giving it credit for, but obviously he's a simpleton because he's flirting with the fucking idea of killing drug users. Do you have any idea how long ago I would have been put to death if this was in place? Like I said, over 50% of the American population dead, over. No, that's not a solution. All that is it shows that you're a fascist. You're an authoritarian. You would rather maintain order which you're not even really doing that, but in your mind that's what you're doing. You'd rather, if that requires killing people who are exercising their freedom, by all means, go ahead and kill them, because we must maintain order. But again, you're not really doing that, and you're the criminal here. They're not criminals, you're the criminal. And don't you dare ever say again that you love small government, and you love freedom, and you love democracy, because obviously you don't. You have much more in common with a guy like Saddam Hussein than you do with, any civilized modern Western democracy.